Welcome back to Power Lunch. It's time for today's three-stock lunch. Today, we're looking at some of the biggest earnings movers from the past couple days. Here with our trade is Courtney Garcia, Senior Wealth Advisor at Payne Capital Management and a CNBC contributor. Courtney, our first stock is D.R. Horton. Shares are jumping higher after the home builder beat second quarter estimates, raised its 2024 outlook despite that supply slowdown. What's your trade?
Yeah, we've been very optimistic with home builders, and I remain optimistic. I would absolutely be a buyer here of D.R. Horton. This really is just a supply and demand story, and we've talked about this previously, but there have been about 5 million more households created than homes that have been built in the last 2 decades. That problem is not going away, and the fact that interest rates are high only makes this problem worse, and the fact that rates may stay higher for longer means a majority of homeowners, about 80%, have mortgages that are less than 4%, meaning they are not wanting to sell. And that's where your new home builders come in. And D.R. Horton specifically is there to fill the gap because they have those lower entry point homes, which is great for your first time home buyers. And they're also a large builder who can help with incentives if rates stay high or if the markets were to soften, which can continue to benefit them in the future. So those supply and demand constraints are only going to continue in the near future. I think D.R. Horton is well positioned to take advantage.
All right, let's move court to CSX. Shares of the rail transport real estate stock moving higher. Company beat Q1 estimates on the top and bottom line. CSX also reaffirming 2024 full year guidance for revenue growth and volume. So what do you think of CSX?
Yes, another company with good earnings here. I always like to see when they're beating expectations. And I think one interesting thing that you want to look at with that earnings report is you saw the volume growth actually was increasing. And that's something that I think you want to make sure you're taking a look at as we go forward here. Manufacturing PMI was just above 50 for the first time since 2022. Which just means that that rolling recession we had in the manufacturing industry is likely coming to an end here. You're seeing the consumer continues to remain strong, and they're seeing consumer spending remains high. You're seeing retail activity. There's a lot of restocking that's going on. All of that means more rail is going to be needed. CSX, again, is going to benefit from there. I think we're going to see more of that when we get more earnings later this year. So absolutely, I would be a buyer here.
And Courtney, finally, we have Las Vegas Sands. The casino stock is sinking despite beating earnings and revenue estimates for the first quarter. The stock is among the worst performing names in the S&P 500 today, and shares are down about 20% dating back to last year. A lot of this has to do with the China trade, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and don't let this name fool you. Las Vegas Sands actually not in Las Vegas. All of their exposure is going to be mainly in your Asian casino markets, which that's the play here. If you believe that that recovery is going to continue, and I actually do believe it will, this is your way to play it. They have a lot of exposure in Macau and Singapore, and if that recovery continues there, they are well positioned to take advantage. The reason that they're doing poorly today specifically, you're seeing they did beat earnings expectations to your point, but they also are doing a lot of renovations into those properties in Asia, which is going to absolutely affect their bottom line when you look at the short term, probably the next quarter or two here. But those improvements are going to be longer term trends for them. So if you think the gaming industry is going to improve in China, I do think it is. If you think China eventually is going to improve, I do think it is. And some of those improvements they do are going to be a longer term story. I think this is something that you want to play here. Just take advantage of the fact that it is down quite significantly.
Yeah, it did see a nice pickup in Macau sales. Courtney, thank you. That's Courtney Garcia.
Thanks for having me.